to Holiness here. And the question that I pose for us today is one of, are you still waiting for the joy? In other words, has Easter come and gone and you don't really feel any different? Well, let me tell you, that's life, isn't it? But the fact is that God is working in the quiet. He's working in the quiet of your heart. We just went through the great Lenten season, and we are now in the midst of the Easter octave, the first 8 days of the Easter season, which is 50 days long and ends with the great feast of Pentecost. But the fact is that so often, just like in life, we kind of get stuck a little bit, or we don't feel like we've moved from Lent into Easter. Could be that things are really difficult in your life right now, or it could be that you're still grieving the loss of someone, or it could be a myriad of a whole bunch of different things. The chaos of life kind of coming back after a great Holy Week, and you're kind of going, well, where's Jesus? Where's the difference? Where's the joy? And I want to share just a couple of things. One is the fact that we are needing to trust. And what better time to be learning that lesson than as we are in the midst of this Easter octave, getting ready to celebrate Divine Mercy Sunday this weekend, which is the second Sunday of Easter, but St. Pope John Paul II declared it just as Jesus asked St. Faustina to communicate it, and it subsequently was named Divine Mercy Sunday. And it is the fullness of the revelation of God's love, the fullness of what the resurrection brings about. But I was reading a reflection this week, and it was about Mary Magdalene at the tomb. And she had gone and she had seen that Jesus wasn't there. And the fact is that she stayed and waited. What was she waiting for? Well, it was something that I pondered, and then no coincidences. I picked up a excerpt from a book that I have been going back to off and on over the last several months in the wake of my husband's passing back in November, and it was written by Sue Monk Kidd. Many people know this book, When the Heart Waits. But the thing that struck me is that she pointed out that there's three cycles of waiting, kind of three stages of waiting. And those are separation, transformation, and emergence. Now, if we take that and apply it liturgically, and this is not canon, this is not theology training, this is just from my own reflections. If we take the idea of the three, stages of waiting, our separation happens during Lent, doesn't it? We are separating ourselves from the things of the world. We're going interiorly. We're separating ourselves from those things that are preventing us from being able to draw closer to God. Our transformation is happening during that separation time, but we're just beginning to really experience the joy of Easter. And during these 50 days is when that transformation will be happening, because God is working in the stillness. He's working in the quiet of our hearts and of our minds. And even in the midst of the busyness of the day, He is working so that when we reach Pentecost and the Holy Spirit comes upon us, guess what? We then emerge, just like the apostles, to go out to the world and proclaim the good news, to really be those witnesses of joy. So, if you're not feeling that joy, if you're still waiting for that joy, I want to tell you, be patient. Allow God to keep working. This is what our life is. It's this cycle of we separate from those things or those people that are not good for us or are preventing us from becoming our true selves. And that transformation is happening, but we might not notice it until we come to that time of emergence, that time of when we look back and we go, wow, I can't believe that I wrote a book, or I can't believe that I used to not be able to stand up for myself when someone would say something or that, about me or about someone else, and I would defend them. And you realize that you have grown in courage, that you've grown in perseverance, that you've grown in so many different ways that you weren't aware of, because that transformation was happening over time as you were separating yourselves from those things, and then you emerge as a new creation. Sue Monk Kidd, in her book, uses the idea of a chrysalis, of a butterfly, a moth going into their cocoon, and then they are separated from the world, they transform, and then they emerge as this beautiful butterfly. We too are those beautiful butterflies. We are emerging more and more each day if we allow God to work on our hearts. And one of the biggest things that He does is just the fact of He gives Saint Faustina, and again, I come back to Divine Mercy Sunday, which we're celebrating this week. He gave Saint Faustina in her diary lots of instructions. And those instructions weren't just for her, they're also for us. And I wanted to share a couple of those because I think they are very applicable for us right now as we're in the midst of this Easter octave, getting ready to prepare for Divine Mercy Sunday, and then especially as we're going through this Easter season of transformation. So one of the first things that Jesus tells St. Faustina over and over and over again, and he tells us through her, never trust in yourself. Abandon yourself totally to his will. That's got to be step one. That's got to be step one. The second is bear with yourself with great patience. How often do we get impatient? Like right now, the calendar changed, we hit Easter, and I'm like, I'm not feeling the joy. I'm not, I don't feel any different. Be patient. Another is don't neglect the interior mortifications. In other words, continue to do the work that you have been doing. So many times we look at our Lenten sacrifices and we get to Easter and we're like, oh, I'm all done. But we forget about any kind of mortifications. And it could be just a simple one of maybe one of your sacrifices you made during Lent was to not speak harshly to someone or to many people. Well, keep doing that. That's an interior mortification. You don't have to do it because it's Lent. Rather, you do it because you know that this has made you a better, more loving person. Regardless of how everyone else is acting, Jesus tells us, let all act as they like, but you are to act as I want you to. Jesus wants us to act as he wants us to. He wants us to live in accordance with his teachings, with the Beatitudes, with the fulfillment of the Ten Commandments. So we need to make sure that we are acting as he asks of us, not like how everybody else is. If someone's causing you trouble, think about what good you can do for the person who's causing you to suffer. Think about that. How different the world would be if whoever was causing us trouble, we thought about the good that we could do for them, and we did it. Don't be discouraged by ingratitude. I think sometimes, especially for those of us who are parents or for those of us who might be in kind of a thankless job, that we get discouraged when people aren't thanking us for our efforts or they don't see what we're doing. If time and time again we're like having to clean up after someone or those kind of things, and nobody ever says thank you. Don't become discouraged by ingratitude. This is what Satan wants. He wants you to become discouraged. Satan is the source of all deceit, division, and discouragement. So don't become discouraged. Rather, know that the Lord sees everything. Continue doing what you know he wants you to be doing. Always fight with the deep conviction that I am with you. This is what Jesus said when especially St. Faustina was having to fight against all of the different demons that were coming and attacking her, were trying to get her to doubt that Jesus was coming to her and was having conversations with her. And in the same way, when we come up against, with those temptations against hope, when we're like, what's the point? This is not going to make any difference. Remember, transformation takes time. And it's not until we begin to emerge as that new butterfly that we begin to realize that transformation has happened. So continue fighting with the deep conviction that Jesus is with you. And this is the final piece. Do not be guided by feeling, because it's not always under your control, but all merit lies in the will. What was Jesus trying to tell us? Very simply, what we will, what we choose, when we say yes and we trust Him, when we say yes to acting as He desires us to act, when we say yes to doing good for people who have made us suffer, when we say yes to doing those things where we aren't thanked, when we say yes and we say, Lord, I trust you, and I'm going to be patient with myself, and I'm going to continue to do those things that I know are making me a better and more loving person, because this is your will for me. In all these ways, we will be moving through this Easter season and allowing the transformation that began with our separation from things of the world during Lent to truly take place during this Easter season, so that when we get to the end of the Easter season, we are going to be filled with that Holy Spirit, and we're going to go and we're going to emerge out into the world as new creations, just as Jesus won for us on the cross and has proclaimed through his resurrection is our life as well. I hope that you guys have a most wonderful rest of the Easter octave. I'm going to be going away for the next week to get a little rest and relaxation as well, and spend some time with friends and family. And I hope that you have the opportunity to do the same as well. God bless, and talk to all of you again soon.